Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have a mighty panel. So we saw that we're going to break the tradition of just chit-chatting. And we own it back to the crowd. So we have a presentation. We have an extremely... Guys, sit down. Sit down. I know it's early morning. You guys have your own coffee, right? So don't blame us. But we are here to put up the adrenaline and to give you back good feedback about Africa, but also about our design. So all 7 of us are designers, live the problem of the continent. I'm going to take my seat, okay? So the title of the panel is the design game. And obviously, we can play our game very well. That's why they pay us. That's where we get big contract as well. So Africa. Very, very quick introduction about how we're going to structure this for our colleagues. We have a screen here. And another one here. So the theme of the discussion is, and I know it's very traditional one, or very untraditional one. It's about Africa. It's about how best we can blend African theme into the design created by, we're all global, right? Each one of us has a heart, has a bit that belongs to Africa. Not you, girls. But I have a bit that belongs to both worlds, so we thought it's the best way. And Africa has its own problems. So we always, mañana la mañana or inshallah doesn't work really in Africa. You guys know that. So time and patience is everything about Africa. Right. Before we just start the discussion, there are a few slides that talk about the economical growth, that talks about the African rising. We've been hearing this for the last 10 years, hasn't changed. Africa still holds all of the raw material of the world. Chinese have interest, the Americans have interest, we all have interest, but they have an untapped tourism. Obviously, any going through the African tradition is about experience. It's about, we are very proud of saying we are who we are. So we are, same as the Russian. We say we are Egyptian, we are African, we have tradition. We have this Ubuntu language. We are who we are. You don't find a lot of nations that have this attachment, but we all have that. I think I need to move fast. Global travel, trends in travel and so on, we all know about it. So without let me start with the very first question. The pictures has a relevance to the questions. So try to follow with us. Shadi.
Good morning.
Good morning. We always say, what's beyond the check-in, check-out? And I would love to have your take on it. Mardre, you can join in anytime you feel like.
No, I know I must slow down, so I'll wait for my turn. I'll speak when spoken to.
I'll ask the guys to bring some coffee, but just please feel for it. So what do you think about what's beyond the check-in, check-out? What do we have?
So I believe the beyond check-in, check-out and any hospitality experience is where it starts. I mean, you have the greeting aspect, you start discovering the place, and that's when you start having to live the place that you're going to and start exploring the destination, etc. So I think that's the activator of your upcoming stay, wherever you're going, if you're going for business or leisure, etc. So that's really when you start experiencing the local culture, the destination, the design of the place, and that experiential aspect. I mean, once you finish that almost routine aspect that is smoothly and finally disappearing with all the new technologies that are coming in, so it's just a click away now.
That's absolutely true. And if we move on, I know we owe it back to the crowd, right? Ira and Olya.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I know it's a hard one. It's another question that we always put forward. Does the hotel experience matter? A lot of people say solo, maybe. Jointly, definitely. And how do we define the hotel experience?
Like what else matters? If not experience, it's really important, and I would like to add that it starts not only during the check-in, but even before, during the
chicken
booking.
is good also.
Yeah.
Between.
So it started even with the booking, and it's really important what idea, what photos do you have at your site or at all the booking sites, and it was usually common to have like all the designers have their special photo session with the really great photographers, but hotels usually don't work with them because they have the like professional but like more
practical photographers,
functional photographers to use their photos on the bookings. And we realized that there is a new trend, like the hoteliers asking us to work with the photographer, to tell the photographer what is the story behind the hotel, what was the idea, what light we should put on the photo session, what
what daytime or nighttime we should have these photos of each separate place. So now, now we, thanks to our new generation of owners, now we can start the journey from the very, very beginning, from the booking.
You all remember 10 years ago how we used to do business. They were asking us to do a design. We're submitting a design. It's no longer a design. We are submitting a narrative, stories.
Absolutely.
Storytelling.
Right, Mardre?
Absolutely.
Go on. Come on, baby.
Well, now you've given me a chance. So, absolutely. I think the hotel experience, I think for most of the continent, so we work mostly in sub-Saharan Africa, is it's quite a large experience. And most of the cities that we work in, hotel buildings are the most advanced buildings for miles. So it becomes a microcosm of that city. It becomes a microcosm of that culture. It's the place that has the best amenities. It's the place that has the best Wi-Fi. It's the place where people come to experience the whole city, the whole culture, the whole country. So, in developed countries, people stay in a hotel and they eat elsewhere. In a lot of the cities that we all develop hotels, people mostly stay in their hotel when they're there. So it's really important for us to represent that particular culture in all of its diversity. I'm just going to go back to the check-in a little bit. I think also a very interesting thing for us on the African continent is that a lot of the brands are working with limited service, and you can check in yourself, and that's very popular in Europe. We've tried to install that for various brands on the African continent, and within a month we've had to install reception desks. It's just not working on the continent. For a very simple reason. We have incredibly friendly people. We have big smiles. We have big open skies and we have big smiles. We have people that want to serve people. We have people that want to welcome people. And it's a very big part of the African culture. So we'll never get away from that.
Yesterday one of the presentation here was about the AI. And it was so much not Africa.
Yes.
We, as you say, we are service-oriented. We serve hospitality, and hospitality is it's the art of serving people. So without having this interaction, if I get you a robot, I don't think you'll be happy. You want our smiles. You want the smile of the people when you check in. You want the experience is about human interaction, right? Yes, we have the AI somehow, but the AI is set to ease our life and not the other way around.
Absolutely.
And we want our signature welcoming cocktail as well, yes?
Exactly.
And I'm really proud that now hoteliers, the owners of hotel, discuss with us designers even what would be the signature cocktail, the welcoming drink you know?
Unlike
because this is the prolongation of the story, you know, like the story behind any hotel, story behind any design.
But Ira and Ola, do you try the cocktail or you only discuss?
No, we don't discuss. Never, ever.
Diane, another question, which is very much on the topics, always. But I think the picture itself behind the question can tell a million words. Can designer manage guest expectation? Or is it left just to hotel operator? And there is a picture behind here, and you can see that, and it tells everything about the answer in a way, that this is an old corridor of an apartment, can be in Stockholm, can be in St. Petersburg, can be anywhere. But when the models come in and reactivate it gives a new life. So back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think any project that we work on is always about collaboration. And designers can 100% influence the expectations of guests. First, by actually understanding the culture of the place that you're working with, really understanding the brand, understanding what the expectations are, and then actually working in partnership and in harmony. I think that's really the key thing. And it's all about the elements that we've spoken about, you know, the various experiences that you have through the process, but also through the process of design. You know, we as a team of designers want to really love the process and understand the culture, understand the narrative, and then actually work together like this beautiful image, crafting something that's really an extraordinary experience.
Dipo, I know that you are the architect and you are the silent wisdom of this panel. Dipo is not doing a lot of interior design, but I had the privilege of working with him 15 years ago in Abuja. And he's an architect and he does pure architecture. So without him on the panel, we all don't have a job. Dipo, this is a bit for you and as well as for all of us to join in. And it's not about AI, so do not think that this discussion is about AI. It's rather, if you look beyond the AI and look into travel now and in the future.
Yeah, I think, just to go back to some of the things that I've heard, is that I think we need to understand that when we design for hotels, we always look at who are we designing for. There's been a tendency in past years to feel it is a lot of mostly international visitors. There's a lot of intra-Africa travel now. I think Africans want to engage with other countries, and I think we should, just to let you know, there are 54 countries in Africa. And I think we were having a discussion yesterday about who was African. Well, Egypt is part of Africa.
Yes.
I know, we're the white African, but it's okay. We forgive that, it's fine.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
And I think it's important to realize that engaging with people who are familiar with these territories is important. I think Diane mentioned collaboration. I think it's a very key element moving forward to understand, yes, what are Africans looking for? Hotels in Africa are almost like community centers. Everybody goes there to experience something different. So when they go into hotels, they'd like to feel that there's a combination of the sort of modernity, they've got internet and so on, but also that there's a reflection of the sort of national culture, of the national character of the people. And I think it's important that we as designers, I mean, you mentioned, can we influence perhaps culture, the cultural narrative? Yes, we can. It's interesting, though, if you look at small boutique hotels that some of the local consultants have done, you'll notice that they start off from that premise. Let's have a lot of art in the hotel, and art is part and parcel of the African culture. So I think it's important that, yes, AI is coming in. It'll give us the opportunity for people to be able to have choice, give us the data that people can use to determine what they want to experience when they get into a hotel, when they book before check-in. And so it gives that opportunity, really, to define for visitors, certainly, and travelers, just where and how they'd like to engage with different parts of Africa.
What are your take, Mardre?
I think it's also, for me, looking into the future, I think there's been a big resurgence of design in Africa, and I think there's a generation of us Africans that have had the opportunity to live and work abroad and kind of realize, actually, we're not kind of as left behind as we were told we once were, and in fact, we're quite skilled and quite talented, and where we are is quite beautiful. So I think as designers, it's also our responsibility to tell our story in a very contemporary way. For a very long time, we've had to rely on tourism in a very particular way that was all based on wildlife and safari, and that it's all big, wide, open fields. But we're also urban, and we're also contemporary, and we're also industrial in certain spaces. So I think it's also important for all of the stories to be told. When we're talking about including culture, it starts with us. So when we're talking about how do designers to manage that experience, it's up to us as designers to tell the full story and not just keep playing into what I like to call a curio design, like just the curio version of what Africa should be, and keep ourselves as little curio dolls for the world to come and see. We're also global humans, so it's important for us to tell that full story, and especially going into the future. And I think there's a generation of people that have returned to their home countries, very well traveled, very well educated, and seeing the potential that we have to say, this is who we are very proudly. We're not just animals.
Sure.
I absolutely agree with you.
Animals to come and see, sorry, I don't mean like the people animals. I mean like parks for animals.
We are in a way. We're party
Well,
animals.
it depends what time of day.
Sorry, we're party animals.
But to take on what you're saying, actually, there's a very important aspect where local architects and designers have the responsibility of translating the local story.
Yes.
In partnerships.
And preserving it.
And preserving it,
Yes.
continuing it, and we are tasked with having an amazing responsibility, is that you're giving this building and this box that you want to create a small window on the local culture that is around it, to transcend the story, and AI is just an enabler that makes it smoother. But then you have this, that's a word that's been used a lot, but it's very relevant to your point. It's you have the global scene with the local aspect, which is, I think, more than ever relevant. And what's helping it a lot is AI and technology to really bring it smoothly as an experience towards the guests, the users, the locals, everybody.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
As global designers, our job, we really believe in that our job is not only to tell this beautiful story of local place, not only to tourists, but also to locals.
Yep.
We want to mingle locals and tourists, and it's really interesting and inspiring every time when we work in different places. But sometimes, as you said earlier, Africa is like many countries, not just one. Exactly. And some, for example, when we were working in Benin, and we digged very deep to the story of this country, and we tried to mix the French culture and the Beninian culture. And then as all we do, we worked with the art consultants, and they were from France. Yeah. And when they started to suggest the art, it was like, it's South African, is West African, sometimes people really believe that Africa is like yes. one place.
Yeah. But speaking about our topic, I think that AI will help those people to dig deeper.
In the right direction.
New Google is better.
I have my take on the AI, and I always say that AI mainly is about guest profilation. technology should never be up front. It should always be in the background. So whatever AI is used, and we are using it on a daily basis, should be discreet, should never re-influence our decision, should just help us find the right decision. So it's a total different way. But let's go to, this is not Oscar de la Renta. So for any of the ladies start to think that, oh, where do you buy this dress? I'm telling you guys, this is a patchwork. So it's very interesting, this topic. I was reading a few days ago, there is one of the top consultants of the top one of the big three is specialized in hospitality. It's only McKinsey. And they're talking that the wave we are living in today, it's called revenge travelers. You guys are all experiencing that all flights are fully booked. Mm-hmm. Travelers, the fact is, travel today is almost reaching 40% above the historical 2019 benchmark in the whole world travel industry. It's crazy, and bottom line is very low. So even when we are doubling, so they call this the now travel. There is revenge travel. Never heard this word, but they start to label it. This is revenge travel after 3 years of being locked, still getting salaries or not. It's never about that. People feel urged to travel and travel extensively because they have this desire to give back for their 3 years in prison, between brackets, which created the revenge travel. Now we have a now design. Mardre, pick on that.
Are you sure you want me to talk about it? Yes. I think it's...
Then the sisters will follow, but just go ahead. It's an interesting topic, and
yes.
A lot of people really don't feel for it, but it is existing.
It does exist. I think it's how it's changed us, how kind of the pandemic changed us, is that people just evaluated what they really want from the world and what it is that's important to them. And it's changed dramatically. You know, change is a traumatic thing. You know, even moving desks is traumatic for people. You know, so while guys tried before to talk about climate change and all kinds of things before, no one ever listened. And suddenly when we started feeling this thing on our own skins, it became really important. So people now want to travel and feel that they've been somewhere and feel that they have been changed by the location and feel that they have experienced that location, feel that they've been part of that culture, feel that they've made a friend in that location, feel that they've contributed to that location. So I think what the pandemic has done, not just as a revenge thing of going, I was locked up like a caged bird and I want to travel. It's that people are feeling a really deep need to be satisfied by exploration and by meeting and by seeing and by feeling and by experiencing. So it's a need that I think is a really kind of deep need for knowledge and satisfaction and feeling that the world is not just about my job and what I earn and my big house and my smart car, but actually about what I can gain from the rest of the world, the things that I can learn.
Iran, Olya, don't forget the climate change. What do you say about it?
Let me first start with this revenge flights, because us personally, we contribute with workation flights. So now, to not prolong, this bad influence to nature, we try to mix work and some pleasure, and we prolong our stays. As I've been told that it's not only us, it's not only us, but it's a new tradition to prolong the stay in the hotel. So if before, for example, for some hotels it was like for the business hotels, it was like 1.5 nights or 2 nights. Now it's 3 and 4 nights. So it also changed our design thinking when we designed the rooms.
I'm looking at you. Are you
About climate change, okay, this topic, I don't know if we should even discuss it anymore, because I think that all the designers and all the hotel operators and even all the hotel owners, they know that now it's really time to think about that and like to use as many local materials as you can, and to use all the green technology, etc., etc.
Yes.
If we can, yes.
Which taking me to the next question, and it's quite interesting now. Consumers of all ages, from different parts of the globe, and we are all globetrotters, so it's our motto, and we're designing for the globetrotters. Are prioritizing travel, we know that. Can designer offer a tailored experience in ways that attract and delight today's guests? Shadi?
I think it's the baseline of what we should be doing. I mean, and if we're not, then it's not necessarily a successful design, because as our job is to cater to the guests that are being welcomed, whether they are local or international or on business or on leisure. So any designer needs to cater to the moving times in general. And it's a projection of the time of the now, but in the future. So we do it beforehand, as we always done as a craft of architects and designers. So I think it's really the base. I mean, if you're not doing it, you're doing something wrong.
Yes. By the way, gentlemen, just before this, we started the panel. We were standing outside, and again, we were talking that there is an official and very technical analysis on today's world travelers. And if you would know that by 2030, it's not the Saudi World Cup, but by 2030 we have the tranches of traveler. 66% of the world travelers are occupied by Gen X, baby travelers, and millennials.
Lucky them.
So none of us in this room fit, unfortunately. And
But
they will take
you say
66%.
unfortunately, but we designers, we say lucky us, because you know, the crowd before, for example, for luxury brands, it was always the same.
Now it's changing.
Now it's absolutely changing. Now we have these young billionaires, and they want tailored luxury. They want bold luxury. They want something unique and tailored. And this is our age, actually. This is our era for designers. Like,
Yes.
we're thrilling with it. So
And I
please
totally
don't be sorry for us.
No, I'm not. No. I'm absolutely not sorry for us, because we'll definitely will have the opportunity to cater for them. I'm just saying that a lot of people don't see the gens and think that they are minority. They're not minority. They are taking over our own decision as traveler, not as designers.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I
can
think
I-
what's
can I just
really
ask a question?
encouraging
Go on.
for me is to see that the now travelers actually want to have the experiences, but they actually want to go to places where they can contribute and they can make a difference, and become involved in the climate change, become involved in reinvigorating coral reefs, and going into places, building bridges, becoming part of that experience and contributing. And I think that's the type of travel that we're starting to see more evidently now, where operators, owners, developers are coming to us, asking us to craft and curate their story, and actually make it and craft and become part of how we can actually make these experiences part of the narrative of the design. And I think that, for me, is super exciting. And I think that's where Africa has got an incredible advantage, because they are actually young and they're creating
Stay with
something
me. Stay with me, Mardre.
Okay.
Look at the screen here, because I think this is where you need to jump in. As tourism grow, we have a problem, because the tourism is growing. Africa is limited resources. It's a version, limited resources. We have a problem of overcrowding. It's coming. Maybe we don't see it yet, but it's coming. A lot of exclusive executive destinations. can we use design as a tool to resolve it?
Absolutely, because I think it's going to link a little bit to this. I think what we're seeing is that the face of luxury travel is changing dramatically. Luxury travel used to be questions like how big is your pool, what is your thread count, what is the value of your carpet, all of that kind of thing. Luxury travel now is asking, how can I help to restore the coral reef? How can I help to restore a culture? So the travelers that you're talking about are redefining luxury travel in a very different way. You know, saying, I might be financially enabled. It doesn't mean I want to spend my money on myself and be dripping in gold. I want to spend what I have in a very sensible way. So I think in that way we can also help this overcrowding, because on the African continent, typically our most valuable hospitality resources have been for an incredibly wealthy market that have come to see migration of animals or have come to see certain things, and not really for, you know, it's been a very kind of polarized market. You know, you must be incredibly wealthy to see those things, and then there's nothing else for anybody else. So I think the overcrowding we can really manage through that by saying, actually, we have lots of buildings. We have lots of buildings that are empty. Actually, lots of beautiful buildings from the 60s and 70s that are now crumbling. That could be fantastic buildings right now, the great pieces of architecture that could be in a range that is fantastic 4-star, that is accessible to everybody locally, that is accessible to a whole different kind of traveler.
We are in Dubai, so we can see how we can survive here. It's
Exactly.
overcrowded.
You know, so I think our overcrowding can be solved in ways that are quite sustainable and quite respectful to the locations.
I hope so. I really hope so. You guys know and probably
But
very
I believe
of the problem today is in Italy and Spain.
Yes.
And they are a real problem with
Yes.
tourists, to the extent that they're trying to find a balance between what the tourists bring into the economy
Yes, for sure.
and what the locals are
And
getting
the
fed
joy
up
of
with.
locals, yeah. But I believe that the question about this overcrowded problem should be addressed to architect, because it's
Here's
the,
Dipo. He's just
yes,
sitting
please,
beside you.
please tell us. Because we as designers, we can, you know, like close the window with curtains, but you can do better.
Well,
It's all your blame now.
Yeah.
no,
I'm telling you.
let me just go back a little, because you mentioned this statistic, and I think it's important that we realize that the kind of travel we're talking about is new to a lot of Africa. So in terms of our generation not traveling, I think that in Africa, our generation are coming into this.
Dipo, speak about yourself. I'm still young.
Our generation will still be traveling, and I think in Africa, we need to understand that communities look at hotels as something new and exciting they can get involved in finally. You know, we get feedback from people who use hotels in Africa, and you know, they live just around the corner, yet they go to the hotel for the weekend. They want to experience something new. And I think it's something that we tend to think that it's only the global traveler who will experience hotels in Africa, either by looking for, you know, lodges, for safaris and so on. I think there's a new Africa traveler who wants to experience other countries. People from Egypt want to go to Morocco or go to South Africa, etc., etc. And I think it's important that we look at those ones as a critical part of the Africa travel scene. And therefore hotels need to take into account the fact that these people have their own requirements, things that they're looking for.
You touched on a very, very important angle, or very untouched angle, which is the local travel. And the local travel has always held the economy on the bad time. And we have never-ending stories about that.
In fact, that's what's driving the resurgence of hotel use right now.
Yes.
Is domestic travel, as we call it, and it's getting very, very much bigger. And people are realizing that they're seeing things they never even realized existed.
It is the backup of any single economy when the international fails, right, Shadi? We had this in Egypt. You are the very Egyptian. I'm just like touching the, you know. But this has happened, right? Okay, a very, very interesting subject, and we're starting with you, Shadi, and we're going to take it. This is where everybody's going to join. It's almost Christmas. So, and we're closing 2024, and it was a very, very difficult year. For us as designers, we were swinging the whole 9 yards. We're trying to find what's best. So, Shadi, what do you think about the trends shaping our design industry in 2024?
That's a very large.
I know. Just to make it easy for you guys.
The large questions, but yeah, I mean, the word trend in general is something that I personally have issues with, because trends come and go in general, and when we design destinations that reflect a location and a culture, then it should be relatively timeless.
And should be last at least 15 years.
That's the minimum. I mean, in any hotel that you design, in general, you have to predict the trend, because it takes a few years, especially in Africa, to build a project, that to start from scratch, on average from 3 to 5 years to have a project up and running. So you have to predict a design that is relevant in 3 years and still usable from in terms of functionality, from design relevance, cultural relevance, and trend for 15 years. Which makes what we do one of the most passionate aspects of design. So it's calling a trend over 15 years
Yes.
is a bit of an opposite term, I think.
What do you think here?
I think that here what really helps us is storytelling, because storytelling and artistic design is always trendy. It's never going outdated. Yes. So
it's our savior.
Yes,
and speaking about Egypt, we have a nice, very beautiful story to tell.
Yeah, now we are working on the one hotel there, and we started, because another trend which we already mentioned here is to invite as many locals into your hotel as you can, and to work not only for the tourists but for locals too. That's why we need to have as many bars as we can put into the hotel, like one in the lobby, one in each restaurant, one on the swimming pool, one on the rooftop, like as many bars, as many restaurants with different story, different cuisine. This is really important. So, and now when we started this, to work on this project, we started
in Cairo
to speak with the local influencer. So, like, how do they, like, perceive what will be Cairo in 5 years? What do they need? What is their story? What will be helpful to them? And that was really interesting experience.
What's their imagination of Cairo in 5 years? Not because we as tourists, because we are tourists, yeah?
Yes.
We know exactly what tourists want to see in Cairo, but we also want to speak with the locals, and it's really interesting.
Mardre? What do you think?
I agree with Shadi. I think none of us can work really in trends. They're too short for the life cycle of our things. So we like to refer to them as kind of movements, how we will all live differently. So I think the biggest thing for us, how we will live differently, is the consciousness of where we are, and the consciousness of that location, and how people want to travel in that location. I think the one thing that I can say is kind of like shaped us quite a bit is actually the value of social media. Unfortunately, it's not something we want to recognize in design, but people want to photograph themselves in places, and that is how our clients survive. And if our clients aren't successful and they're not making money, then none of us have jobs. So we've also had to start shaping our design around Instagrammable moments, unfortunately, to say
we want our guests to tell our story to their
that story
crowd.
has to be told. So if people can photograph themselves successfully in a space, then that's that. So for me, the big movement is really about being conscious in what we're doing, but the kind of the very commercial layer is we also have to create spaces where people can photograph themselves really well, look really beautiful, post that and look fantastic and look like they're on a wonderful holiday, and their friends can all be jealous, and then we're winning.
Yes. Diane, out of all of us, you are the legacy designer. So we don't get these projects as Diane gets it, which takes us to exactly the same, but a continuation of this. And I think you're the right person, or the most wrong person, to answer this one. Because you cater to legacy design, legacy brands, very settled, very historical one. What do you think about this question?
Well, I want to just actually mention one thing about movements, because I think to create a legacy design that is absolutely timeless and that moves with guest demands is really understanding, one, the pulse of a place and then the pulse of the guest. And what we're really starting to see, which I think is actually going to be our legacy going forward, is crafting and curating projects which focus on the health and well-being of our planet, the health and well-being of our guests, and actually focusing on all of the things that we have become really real for us now. The use of really good quality materials that are regenerative, healthy materials that actually give back to the planet. I think all of these things actually are what craft our legacy as designers and architects and operators, and for the guests. I think these are the things that actually stand the test of time.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, we do have on the clock 3 minutes. So we decided on doing different... Omar, don't turn on the light. You took 10 minutes, so chill, buddy. We're not going to run any questions. I want to take you through some of the projects. So you see and you understand how we do storytellings. I think it's very important to understand it. It's from everyone on this panel, and on project that has been done in Africa. So we would like you to enjoy what we have done and understand how our design, our business has been switching from, and we're using part of our presentations to understand that, it was never about a beautiful facade or just a space. There is always a story behind. There is always a storytelling through canvases, through different layers or multi-layers. Guys, you're more than welcome to join me, to hop in. So this is how we do business today. We don't do any more just a design. We layer it, we weave it, we interweave it with the locals, with the story, with...
Oh my God, I love that you said with locals, because sometimes, for example, the story of the family, the hotel owners is that, juicy, that interesting. So, for example, in Nairobi, we talked the story about the family business, because it was a jewelry business, the gems business, and we were thinking Nairobi and the gem business and this beautiful park where the hotel was located. We managed all these themes in one, and it was like a beautiful story behind this hotel, which makes it absolutely unique.
Yes.
For sure.
And I have some of your projects here. This is the one.
This one. So, and we were talking about the story of this family business, which is gems, through this lighting, through this, light.
You guys doing a beautiful job.
Reflections. And
we wanted to share it with you guys, so it's important that you understand that we are not just bullshitters. We are really putting our mouth where we can and where we are mighty in a lot of ways. So go ahead, whoever would love to comment. This is a bit of a sharing, really.
I think also, just to push, we don't do this alone.
No.
We have owners that have investments. We have governments that invest in tourism and strategies. We have contractors, suppliers, and half of the people who are in this room actually support the initial storytelling that we put. We start the narrative based on the operators and the owner's investment, but at the end of the day, it's a bit of an orchestra
Yes.
that we play, and to reach.
We actually create a stew in one way or another.
I think
I
actually,
think,
to link to what Charlie
just-
said, I think
okay, go
part of our job is really about listening time and time again, actually, because we're, I always say to everybody in our studio, we speak design, and our clients typically speak Excel spreadsheet because they work with money. They work with money, so we have to listen to them quite a few times and extract what they're saying. So they might have said, I want something really big and red, but really what they meant was just something impressive. And we have to listen to it time and time again and then interpret that. So I think that's also a really big part of what we do.
I'd just like to finish by saying what you said right at the beginning. This is Africa. And I think it's important that there's an engagement with, as you say, with local art, local designers. In other words, get as much input as you can so that we really begin to understand how people feel. As I said earlier when we were talking downstairs, is that Africans are very proud of their heritage, very proud of what they are, what they have. And I think it's important that there's a lot more engagement when designers started to understand what they really are looking for, how they feel.
Absolutely. And gentlemen, I'll leave you with this slide behind us. It resumes a lot of the weaving and our game for today. And I would love to really thank you for enriching this 50 minutes, for engaging with you guys. I thought that it's not necessary to have question and answers. You have seen a lot of the question and answer, so if you need us, we're outside. We're actually one of you guys, all of us. So thank you very much. Thank you for giving us the time to explore and re-explore and reinterpret things. Thank you.